Good morning to all colleagues. Thank you very much for your presence in here. And my name is Fabian Rudiart. I'm the Deputy Chief of Mission of the Indonesian Mission. And first of all, I would like to bid you bid welcome to you all here. And thank you for coming to this second consultancy meeting on the regional capacity building initiatives, or we call it RCBI. I am delighted to see among us the presence of some colleagues who attended our first consultancy meeting. If I'm not mistaken, we have it last year. And very much as well welcome others who have also shown interest in this initiative. Before I continue, allow me to brief you on some development since the first consultancy meeting that took place in December 2015. But first I would like to explain a little bit once again for those who haven't come to that particular meeting. Indonesia introduced the regional capacity building initiatives with the intention to help the IEA DC department in its efforts to develop a regional approach for the full scope capacity building in the Asia Pacific in the application of nuclear science and technology. As you may already be aware, a work is underway by the TC department on the establishment of the TCAP Regional Program Framework, RPF, to better align the TC program and further the contribution of nuclear science and technology for development. Being an open forum for deliberation, and a member states-driven platform, this initiative seeks the views of member states and all interested TC stakeholders, which will also be valuable input for the TC department on how to optimize the use of regional expertise. At the same time, the RCBI aspires to promote wider participation and contribution by member states in Asia Pacific region, as well as PUI and other potential donor countries. So for us, the more, the merrier. Since the first consultancy meeting, some pledges have been received from some donors in support of the implementation of RCBI in 2016. The RCBI so far, since our first consultancy meeting, has received a total of $132,000 for the funding of a pilot project under RAS 0073, which is supporting human resources development and nuclear technology. For the next biennium, it is hopeful that this pilot project can be promoted as a separate DC non-agreement regional project for 2018-2019. We will shortly listen to a presentation by our colleague from Indonesia Mission, Johanna, which will explain in more detail the implementation of RCBI pilot project in 2016. I should now give the floor to my able colleague, Amrit, to continue with the discussion as well as to navigate our meeting today. I thank you all for your presence and attention and your interest, and wish you a productive session. Thank you very much. Amrit, your floor.
Thank you, Pak Fabian. My name is again Amrit Nangkung. I will be the facilitator for our consultancy meeting today. As mentioned by my colleague DPG of Mission, this consultancy meeting is a follow-up meeting of our first consultancy meeting held last year. For those who have been there at the launch of the RCBI or in the first consultancy meeting, I think you've been familiar with the RCBI concept. And for those who this is the first meeting, I would say no worries. We will have presentations by our colleague that will touch upon also about what RCBI and the concept. As for the organizational matter of this meeting today, we will have presentations by our colleague Ms. Christina Johari on what is next for the RCBI, the implementation of RCBI project in 2016, and followed by discussion. Then there will be a question and answer after the discussion and presentations, and we have indicated the topic of discussion as appears in the agenda. So we will have only one agenda, the presentations, and then question and answer and discussion. After the presentation, then we will have lunch here in this room, buffet lunch, and we do hope that during the luncheon we will have a more informal setting for further discussion on this RCBI. Without further ado, let's start the presentations by Ms. Christina Johari. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Ampli, and our Deputy Chief of Mission, Mr. Gabriel Nurdian. Thank you, all of you, for attending this event. This is the second consultancy meeting on regional capacity building. We have been asked the question, what is the implementation for 2016? And we have been advised, we have to do something, we have resources, we have you, and we need support from member states. This presentation will be divided into 3 subsessions. The update and status since our last meeting, and some, looking back at the initiative itself. The second is the next step, and the last session is the implementation of RCBI pilot project. What kind of pilot project that we would like to offer. Status and update. For those of you who are not yet familiar with RCBI, there was a working lunch held by our mission with several PUI donors back in September 2015. This is to discuss how actually PUI resources can be utilized in an optimized way in a more structured and sustainable approach, and how the utilization itself does not only involve member state TC recipients, but through prior discussion with the PUI donors, what are the needs, and the second event is the launch of RCBI itself. In this event, we invited not just PUI donors, but other potential donors, and also TC recipients, and of course member states in Asia Pacific region. But at this stage, we only invited member states in TCAP and PUI recipients from Indonesia in the past. So maybe some countries outside TCAP one, but they're in the past Indonesia contribute PUI to these countries. Now, right now it's the second consultancy meeting, but since 7 December 2015 until now, we consulted with TC, we consulted with member states, we consulted with PUI donors, how to best approach the initiative. Because there are still a lot of, not a lot, but some questions remain from the first consultancy meeting back in December 2015, and we would like to further discuss this. So what is RCBI? It's an initiative, it's a partner of TCAP to engage stakeholders in an open, member states-driven forum. So it's not an IAEA forum, but it's member states-driven forum. But of course, we are in consultation with TC because that's one way we can channel our not interest, but our what we really want to was it the IAEA to move forward. And in particular for this RCBI, the forum is to discuss the regional approach for full-scope capacity building in Asia-Pacific, to engage all stakeholders, to discuss in advance of projects that are needed, and to discuss what kind of resources. Now, RCBI also promotes resource mobilization to develop and optimize regional resources in Asia-Pacific in this case. In the past, for example, Indonesia, we have received supports from the IAEA to develop our capacity. And I'm sure in many member states in Asia-Pacific, and we ask ourselves, once we got experts, how have they been utilized to support other member states who, for example, just started to engage in some activities. So in this way, it's like we give back to countries in the region how to develop it. And I thank the IAEA for, always giving us good advice on the best proceed with this. So for the RCBI pilot project, we can select thematic areas, and the IAEA has 3 priorities: nuclear safety, nuclear medicine, and agriculture. These are the top 3 priorities. And we can select that together. And then after we do that, each of us who want to participate, they need to identify resources in their country, what facilities they have, what expertise they have, what equipment they have. Again, this is a small-scale project. TC will do the bigger project. But those who ever want to participate, for example, in nuclear safety, they need to identify the facilities, expertise, and there'll be another small meeting for each selected thematic area. We will be holding another small discussion with interested participants. And of course, we identify these countries with such resources who are willing to participate. We organize a small meeting, and then we identify additional resources needed. Because what happened, maybe there are three countries interested, for example, in nuclear safety, but their capacities are limited. So we need to seek additional resources. So we can consult and say, okay, other countries in the region, or other donors, other countries with advanced knowledge. But what we want is to best utilize what we have, what the participating countries have. Second one is, for example, 1-month fellowship in agriculture. So Indonesia has done this before, and this is some activities that they provided, hands-on practical research, and the budget estimate. 3 participants, for example, 7,000 euro a month, and so on. So really, the number of participants, the number of activities really depend on the available contribution from member states. This is also nuclear medicine. Pakistan is interested in this. They have the expertise. So again, 2-week training can be organized there. And also fellowship, it can be held not in Pakistan, maybe in other countries, because we are sharing our resources. So participating countries in RCBI can also benefit for utilization of the resources. This is the safety infrastructure. This is also one of the, one of the area needed mostly by new member states. They need to establish their nuclear safety prior to utilizing nuclear-related.
Thank you very much for this clarification. There is a little confusion. Confusion is that RCA has a regional office in Korea, and that office is also doing very similar work. They have the donors, they have the links with Japan, and see they have some projects which are they support that the donor. There should be certain projects which are combined projects, not only RCA project, but there are some combined projects with other countries. So, what will be, then this initiative will be different, because in the RCA office in Korea, they are trying to strengthen this office, and they have some potential donors as well as, they have some combined projects as well. So, it's a little confusing.
Thank you. This is also discussed in the first conference meeting in this term. One thing for sure is that there will be no office or permanent office of the RCBI, whether here in Vienna or in Indonesia. No, we will not establish any office at all. Because this is an open forum for discussions. This is one thing. Secondly, I just want to add what has been said by Christina, that each country is encouraged to participate. They can be at one time at the recipient of the PC program, but at the same time they can also be donor for even the program that he benefited from. Because any contribution, so small, it's not about people's small, but it will be counted. Because this is with this initiative, we would like to have everybody on board. And maybe Krishna would like to add more.
Yes, thank you. What I would like to add, the difference with RCA is an agreement. They have membership. We don't. This is and this is like, this is also a forum. It's not.
But yeah. It may be very difficult if there is no central authority or central body. For example, one has to take the responsibility. Right now, everybody is thinking that this is initiated by Indonesia. So we will be taking the lead. There must be some country which has to take the lead. So if there is no office, for example, and who will take the, of course, this is an initiative. Pilot project will go on, and then, of course, you can go, getting into this regional project as well. It will be one-time initiative. But if you have to sustain it, if you have to continue it in these thematic areas, because the program is very wide. As I mentioned, the capacity building in all the thematic areas. So you must have to plan many activities in different places, different countries, fellowships, training, and things like this. If you want to have this capacity building at a very high level, so there must be some office or some country which has to take definitely responsibility of this. If you are thinking, of course, in RCA, everybody stakeholder is driven by the member state. As you are mentioning, that member states here in your initiative will be the stakeholder. So what will happen? Like, for example, in RCA, it shifts. One year, the chair is, for example, this year Pakistan. Next year will be Mongolia, where the meeting will be held. After that, maybe New Zealand, some other country. So what will be the procedure or what is the later on? How this your initiative will be sustained in future?
Thank you. This is initiative at the beginning, but would like to have at the end the regional initiative, because in terms of project, thematic projects that will be implemented. For example, Indonesia will be, let's say, on the multi reading, we will have the project and we'll be leading this. But we believe other countries have another expertise and resources, and we have the mapping of the regional resources. There are many countries having, for example, IAEA center in the region. And this forum will be kind of the forum how we could connect the dots with the region. So if Indonesia, for example, taking the lead in the Muslim reading project, then if regional countries in the region need to have a project on Muslim reading, then they know where to go. In other thematic areas, they know where to go. So we would like to have we will keep the ball rolling, and then once rolling, I hope it's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And with this forum like this is exactly the forum we could talk about the mechanism and so on and so on. But for sure, we don't have, as Indonesia is concerned, we don't have any thought to establish office or whatever on RCBI, because we don't want to have a competition, for example, with other RC or any other body in the region. I think I saw Austria would like to take the floor.
Thank you for the invitation today and also for the leadership that Indonesia has shown. I attended the RCA National Liaison Officers meeting and a month or so ago, and they explained during the course of that meeting that TC has limited funding. And that there are 3 different types of projects. That there's the national projects, there's the agreement projects like the RCA projects, and there's also non-agreement projects. And that a lot of the money is, the non-agreement projects are the most heavily funded of those. And so they want to make the non-agreement projects more attractive to external donors, not only countries but also organisations. And they were going to run a couple of pilot projects in this cycle to bring these non-agreement projects into sharper focus and perhaps use this as a way forward. They got endorsement at the meeting to follow this approach. And so after this bit of background, excuse me telling people what many of you already know, I'd like to ask if this this project, the TCAP component of this project, is one of these pilot projects that was being talked about at the National Liaison Office.
Regarding the decision for the lead country in regional programming, again, from TC side, TC will not decide the lead country program. And that will be decided and agreed based on the consultation among the member states, based on the availability of expertise and also human resource centers or other. So member states decide that and agree to a consultation process.
Thank you, Mr. Wonti. It's very appreciated. Anyone else would like to take the floor? Yes, please.
We should thank the Indonesian mission for this initiative, and we would just like to ask a few questions on the mechanism itself. Does it contemplate a Vienna-based forum, the forum of the member states? And second, does it contemplate a bigger role for the mission? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I again thank the Indonesian mission for hosting this second consultancy meeting. We do support any initiative to increase capacity building in the Asian Pacific region, which Japan, of course, belongs to. And we're particularly pleased that this initiative came from Indonesia, which is a UI donor and at the same time recipient of the DC programs. And in our view, the strengths of this kind of initiative initiative is the, I would say, the flexibility or informal nature of initiative. We understand that this is not create any new form of mechanism. We are to utilize existing DC program mechanism, and no any funding or in-kind contribution will be channeled through the agency, the DC department, and we believe in that way we can, I would say, quickly start implementing, for example, a pilot project that we are contemplating right now. And we're also pleased that since the first consultancy meeting, we have seen lots of progress, including the discussion with the agency in terms of thematic areas which may be of interest to all the member states in the region. The difficulty maybe for this initiative is, as we heard the discussion today, how we can add value to the existing mechanism like RCA and Eurasia. We learned today that there are three thematic areas which this initiative should be focusing on. I think it was the result of the consultation with the Secretariat, and I think these three are very good areas to start with, but there may be a discussion taking place already in the RCA or Eurasia about something else, other thematic areas. And there's also a discussion within each regional mechanism about the kind of a long-term strategy or framework. And there's also a discussion, I heard that there is this discussion about the framework for the non-agreement TC project. I think the meeting took place in February in Vienna, which is basically to deal with the non-agreement TC projects. And I heard the discussion was to come up with some sort of long-term program framework outside RCA and Malaysia. So what we are aiming for here in the RCBI project, in my view, is to align itself more with this, what is going on here in Vienna about this non-agreement long-term framework document, because what we are talking about is the Asia-Pacific region, which encompasses the RCA countries and the Eurasia countries, and beyond, which there are several countries that doesn't belong to any of these two regional groupings. So the challenge is clear, how much added value we can add to this. But as I said, there's this flexibility element. So in our view, it's a good idea to start with what we have right now, as was presented, like a pilot project, for example. If we all can agree on the three thematic areas that was discussed. Of course, there are varying opinions about other thematic areas which should be taken up by this initiative. But as was mentioned in the briefing at the top, this kind of initiative should proceed in a manner comfortable to everyone, and in a gradual manner. You just can't try to achieve everything at the beginning. So I think it's a good idea. Only when we can all agree on these three thematic areas are a good place to start with.
We agree with you that the beginning
start in certain areas. And it has some neighborhood priority of clarification between which were in my mind at least not clarified. But of course, the IEA has to know it because this project 00773 is an IEA project, so the funding will be managed here. Because I was feeling confusion how the funding will be managed, how it will be decided that this in this particular area, in this particular field, who will be the lead country, where this activity is going on, who will be leading it. So, it's very clear that you have identified certain areas. In certain areas, there will be consultation meeting here, the Vienna-based organization, the permanent mission, we can go on this meeting, and then there will be decided. For example, of course, there are certain areas in which different countries, they have their disparities. So they will decide to reach a consensus that this project will be taken up by this particular country. It is very good that this is all people here in the Parliament Mission, they will be meeting maybe after frequenting one or twice a year and then decide who will be here. Even then, I propose that along with IEA, Indonesia should take the lead in coordinating this, of course, they have this initiative of attracting the donors and getting the money, and they are organizing this, they have something in their mind how this will be going on. So that should be one country. Maybe after a certain time, as there is a rotation process in RCA, there is some rotation, but I propose that maybe for the nation, 2 or 3 years, the leadership should be in the hands of those who are the leadership.
Considering this, but we would like to have more information about the direction the RCBI is getting to, and also what are you describing now, which is the specific thematic areas that we want to concentrate on. We remain open for ideas and proposals, and that's the current status.
I would just like to comment and add my voice to what our distinguished Japanese colleague had said. I think he could not elaborate. I could not elaborate it more eloquently as he did. It's exactly what the initiative is aiming for. As we are aware, and as was delivered by a presentation by the TC, by Mr. Oscar Acuna, at our first consultancy meeting, that the TC department is developing this regional program framework, please correct me if I'm wrong, that aims to have a gap analysis, have a mapping of regional resources, regional expertise, and streamlining this TC process, because all the TC programs under RCA, RACI, non-agreement, they're overlapping. They're I know there are lots of positive developments with these agreements, but there are also complications. And the TC is, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not from the TC department, but from our understanding, it's TC wants to have a more structured approach of the regional programs, and this initiative aims to facilitate that. If we have Friends of Renewal, this is probably some kind of Friends of TC. That's why, yeah, we just want to facilitate and catalyze the process of what TC department is doing. We do not want to complicate all the existing mechanism further. So this is, this is like a catalyst of this process, and we do count on member states' support and participation in this initiative, and therefore we very much thank you all for coming and for all your support, and the direction of the RCBI, the next step for RCBI, as explained by Ms. Johanna, Ms. Christina, is pretty much in line.
we're in close consultation with the TC department. That's why we're aiming for promoting RCBI from something under class 0073 to non-agreement of strengthening capacity building in Asia and the Pacific, very much in line with what they're doing with the regional program framework, and that's where we're heading.
Consultation meeting, but then maybe it's another colleague. But basically, after listening to Felicia and reading a summary from the first meeting, I can see that the main goal of the RCBI is to help fill the gap in terms of capacity building in the Asian Pacific region. But do you exclusively focus only on member states in the RAS, or you extend it to the ASEAN? And the non-agreement member state as well. Okay, and that's the first question I have in mind. And the second one is how to move forward from the timeline that you gave us. The first one is to join the support for the regional project.
Yes,
the RAS 0073. For the follow-up question, so RCBI works closely with TC department to make sure that what we do is not going to be overlapping with the TC capacity building program.
Do you see this initiative beyond this pilot plan that will be very long-term, or do you think that once this pilot plan successful, that we are, do you need a commitment from our side in terms of funding as well? No.
For the pilot project? Yes, actually, we try to promote utilization of resources in the region, but we also, in this event, we also invited potential donors, PUI donors. We got Russia, we got US, we got France, we got Australia, we got Japan, and
capacity building, a lot of people would like to have it, but at the same time, the IEA doesn't have a limited resources for that. And we see that the region, Asia Pacific, we have many centers, we have many countries that have the capacity to give the technical corporations. They are in the position to do it. So this initiative exactly is just to connect those kind of things, and together we could manage to do the capacity building for our own region. Yes, would you like to add more?
I reckon this project will have a gap analysis component.
Depends on participation.
Yeah, but what I see is, just would like to reiterate, once we can identify gap, but we help fill it temporarily, and in the permanent term, I would like all this gap to be addressed within the TC framework. So we channel it to become long-term TC program. That will make it more sustainable.
yes, we are informed. There's a TC consultancy again in June 2016. The idea is to start with this survey of resources. They will invite, like our experts, I don't know, and also any other experts back home to do the survey in each country. So they will do the bigger job. This is like a case study, how to develop the project.
Listen with great interest to all the comments here today. The United States stands ready to support the RCBI, and we see it as the main strength of this initiative as the collaborative aspect of the use of regional resources to help countries build their capacity. As we all know, for instance, in something like nuclear medicine, training someone on cancer in the United States may not be applicable for a member state that has different types of cancers, different stages of cancers. And so doing that on a regional basis is quite a nice idea. I hear the comments about making this sustainable through TC, and I'm also very happy to understand that TC is taking up sort of a mapping exercise. Really, we need to know what's available to us before we're able to really take advantage of it. So, with these comments, we're just waiting for sort of the go-ahead and the pilot project to materialize, and we'll be happy to support it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
I think thanks for TC for the great effort for the regional capacity building, especially for TCAP. But I think the IAA cannot cover every corner of regional capacity building. So there could be an area that the RCBI could cover. So thanks for Indonesian initiative. If we want this forum is just for dialogue forum, there could be no problem. But the Pakistan colleague just mentioned that the most important thing is the sustainability of the framework that this forum would want. So I think the moving forward with the pilot program is sufficiently meaningful. So thanks in advance for Indonesia for the pilot project. So we have, I think we have two ways effort to one way to moving forward with the pilot project, and we should, and the other way is that we have much consideration about the sustainability and with the collaboration with RCA, where which corner the RCBI could have in cooperation with the RCA, cooperation with TC. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the ideas also, and of course, RCB could not work alone. I mean, it must be complementary with the existing mechanism.
The vision to organize this meeting. This is the second time for me to be part of this meeting. I'm very glad to see that progress has been made since the last two meetings. Also with the effective work of our Indonesian colleagues, we are very glad to see this. And I think for all the regional cooperation mechanisms, we welcome and also it's good for the promotion for nuclear application in our region. And I think these are issue that also we want to express it. And for the three thematic areas that have been discussed here today, I think also for China, we can also do some contribute something in this field. And also we can also I think the knowledge and experience to share with our colleagues. After this meeting, I also will discuss with our colleagues in our mission and also with our colleagues in Beijing to discuss this the contents of this meeting. And I think also our colleagues in Beijing they also give attention to this movement. And also, I think, of course, there are some other mechanisms in our region. We also have some about our IP, etc. what I think all the initiatives that are beneficial to the promotion of this kind of technical cooperation is welcome. So we support all other things that other types of colleagues
With that, I would like to once again thank you all for to come to our meeting. To respond positively to our invitations and to come to this meeting. This is our efforts. This is regional efforts, and we hope we could proceed and be successful and sustainable in this initiative. And thank you very much.